What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on What If Deku Was the Avatar Part 3. Now, where we had last left off, Deku had just finished mastering all of earthbending in under 3 months. Now, he had just finished lava, metal, traditional earthbending, and he is now going to learn firebending. So on the first day of the 4th month, Deku walks onto Dekaba Beach, which is basically cleaned. He hadn't seen Mirio or Toshinori in a while, or also known as All Might. Mainly because after the beach was cleaned, they went on to a different area while Deku decided to stay here, mainly because it had all the elements that he needed to bend around him. Deku uses sand bending to create a nice, hard surface for him to sit on, and then he calls upon the previous firebender, which is Avatar Roku, appears in front of him. Avatar Roku introduces himself saying, "I am Avatar Roku, the previous avatar to Avatar Ain, as well as the last firebending avatar to date. Now, I know the situation we are in. I also know that you have spoken to many different avatars, and by many, I mean 4. You have spoken to Kakashi. I said her name wrong. Kakashi. As well as Ain and Korra to learn all of earthbending, and I understand that firebending is next. Now, firebending is the art of challenging one's soul into its attacks." And Deku replies, "I heard about this from Ain. He said firebending was his hardest." And Roku replies, "Yes, Avatar Ain did have the hardest time with firebending, but the reasoning why is different than what you think. It wasn't because firebending was his opposite element, it was mainly because of the actions that he had taken while learning firebending that had caused him issues." And Deku tilts his head sideways and asks, "What you mean?" "Well, you see, while Avatar Ain was learning firebending, he accidentally struck one of his teammates. You should also put together a team. Team Avatar, as it's been called in the past. Ain's team was mixed with tons of different, well-oriented benders for the different bending arts who also taught him his bending prowess. But while Ain did not have a master for firebending yet, he had accidentally struck his teammate who taught him waterbending." And Deku thought about this for a second, and he's like, "So are you saying that firebending is a very dangerous art?" And Roku kind of chuckles. "Yes, firebending is the literal use of fire. You should understand that it's a very dangerous art to know or master for that case scenario, not only injuring the user's body, but also very, very dangerous for anyone around him. Way more dangerous than earth or metal bending. It has the same dangers as lava bending. And that's not even getting into lightning bending or combustion bending." And Deku shakes his head up and down. He's like, "Okay, I'm ready. I chose this beach because almost no one goes here anymore thanks to the trash." And Roku's like, "But you did clean up the trash, correct? So wouldn't that mean more people would come here?" And Deku shakes his head up and down, and he's like, "But there's no other area that's pretty clean to practice bending." And Roku's like, "Okay, we'll practice here then." Deku then takes about 2 weeks to master, or at least learn, basic firebending. It took him a long time to even create a small flame, but afterwards he can start doing kicks, but he's not as proficient with it to do advanced firebending techniques. That took him about a month. After a month, Deku had completely mastered basic firebending and was ready to learn lightning bending. Roku looked towards Deku and said, The bending art you're about to learn is a very, very dangerous art. More dangerous than fire bending or lava bending. It is known as lightning bending. One strike with one of these blows can instantaneously take out an opponent. Are you 100% sure that you are ready for this? Deku shakes his head up and down. If this is your decision, then so be it. Lightning bending, you have to control the two different halves of you at once. And Deku looks at Avatar Roku and asks, the two different halves? What do you mean? And Avatar Roku explains, lightning bending is the combination of your energy, your heart's fire, your will, your soul power, which there are two different halves, your yin and your yang. Only with keeping these in complete balance can you actually generate lightning and use it in attacks. And Deku thinks about this for a second and he understands that yes, it makes sense. Congruently, if I meant to challenge my own energy into creating it, then of course I'm going to have to be able to master my energy to use it. Roku then explains that after you've learned it, it will be way easier to do everything else with it. Lightning redirection is something completely different for it. But after you learn lightning redirection, you should be able to learn simple lightning strikes as well. What do you mean by lightning redirection? And Avatar Roku explains, well, if you cannot avoid a lightning attack, you can redirect it. It is common for people of the higher rankings in the Fire Nation, especially the royal bloodline, to learn and adapt lightning redirection if they cannot use lightning bending in general, mainly because it's an advanced skill. And Deku shakes his head up and down, understanding what Avatar Roku meant and understanding that that's the case scenario. Afterwards, Deku tried to shoot lightning because he really can't redirect it. No one he knows has a lightning-based quirk, and so far he doesn't know any pro heroes that have a lightning-based quirk either. So he tries to shoot lightning and fails. So Deku starts meditating, trying to better yet understand his personal spirituality and understanding how he mixes the two and fires off a lightning shot. After some time, he eventually learns and is able to shoot out a small little bolt of electricity that barely travels 5 meters. After another 2 weeks of practicing, Deku's finally able to shoot out a decent electric shock. It doesn't go too far, but it goes far enough to be actually used as a weapon and not used as a quick blowback on the personnel. Deku then also trains his martial arts to be better yet to fuse with his bending, and also to advance his bending skills. After a while, he tries to start using two elements at once, but finds it to be very difficult to combine earth and fire, even though he knows that he does this during lava bending at a basic level, because lava bending is heated earth, or earth that has been set aflame. But he shrugs this off, thinking that, okay, if I can only use one bending type currently, then I might as well just focus solely on fire bending. Deku continues to work his fire bending. He ends up incorporating lightning bending as well, and then the police came again. The police reprimanded Deku, and then Deku apologizes, and then he asks if he can use this spot to solely train his quirk for UA. The police just shrug it off, going, yes, you may, because you did assist in cleaning up the entire beach, and because of that, I really don't see an issue with you training in this location to help advance your quirk. Deku, being excited, goes back to training. He starts to send out fire kicks and punches, as well as starting to learn how to breathe fire out of his mouth. Roku did state that this is a harder technique to learn, but after mastering it, you should be able to do it with a pretty easy enough thing. Also, you gotta make sure you breathe. And Deku looks at Roku one day after he said this and said, "Breathe, what do you mean by that?" And Roku says, "You remember how I stated that firebending uses your soul to ignite a flame?" "Yes." "Well, what's the main component of fire?" "Oxygen." You need to breathe to catch the oxygen of flame with your soul as the fuel. Doing this will assist you and allow you to heighten your fire to a stronger and more potent degree, allowing you to take on more personnel and defeat them easier. And Deku shakes his head up and down, going, "That makes sense." Okay. Time to practice. Deku keeps on practicing more and more and more, until eventually he gets a pretty decent cusp under firebending as a whole, except for combustion bending. And this is about after 4 months of training, he finally got a decent hold on firebending and lightning bending. And he thinks combustion. And Avatar Roku explains that combustion is a very, very rare. So far, to my knowledge, I don't remember an avatar having the capability of doing it. And I'm gonna pause for a second. Yes, I do know that we've seen an avatar without arms, and it's rumored that she is a combustion bender because she is from the Fire Nation. But I will not add her in, mainly just because we do not physically have concrete facts that she is a combustion bending avatar, and I already have an idea for how Deku learns combustion bending. Okay, resuming the story. Yes, combustion bending, I've heard of it. It's a very rare art, Roku said. And Deku questions asking, "Well, how am I meant to learn combustion bending?" And Roku explains, saying, "I don't know. It seems like one of your friends already does do combustion bending." And Deku thinks about all of his friends that have an explosion-based quirk, and he can think of only one, as he gets a kind of scared look on his face. And he's like, "You don't mean Kachan, do you?" And Roku's like, "Yes, is there any issues with Kachan? I believe he could be an excellent candidate for the Fire Nation's version of Team Avatar, seeing how he's a combustion bender." And Deku thinks for a second. He's like, "Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that could work." "Okay, thank you, Roku, for all your teachings," as Deku bows to Roku. And Roku says, "No, thank you for allowing me to teach you something new, even though I haven't been taught anything in a long time." Deku then walks home that day. He's thinking, how am I going to talk to Kachan about this? How am I going to talk to Bakugo about me being the Avatar? This is a pretty big issue. I feel like I should kind of synopsis and understand. While Deku was walking home, he bumped into a personnel. The person having platinum blonde-like hair and red eyes, with 2 other people. Deku looks up to apologize and sees Bakugo staring right back at him with murderous intent. "Kachan! What's up, you shitty nerd?" And then Deku instantaneously backs off and apologizes. He says, "Sorry, Kachan. I apologize for bumping into you. I actually have a favor I want to ask of you." And then Bakugo tells him to fuck off, nerd. I ain't helping you with shit, as he continues to walk. And Deku's like, "Well, that went well. I'll ask him tomorrow when he doesn't have any friends around." As Deku goes back home, he tells his mom about him recently learning how to bend fire and that he's mastered firebending, as well as he's mastered lightning bending, and now is looking towards Bakugo or Katsuki to assist him in combustion bending. And his mom's starting to more or less believe it now because Deku doesn't need to destroy anything to show that he's a bender. He can actually just create fire in the palm of his hand now, which makes it way easier to make his mom believe that, yeah, maybe he does have a quirk, or at least she thinks it's a quirk. And she's like, oh, that's amazing. As Inko's just like sweat drops in the background thinking, this can go south very quickly. Next day, Deku runs over to Bakugo's house at 6 a.m. in the morning to see Bakugo leaving in a tank top and shorts. And he's like, Kachan! And Bakugo's like, what the fuck are you doing here so early in the morning, you shitty nerd? And Deku's like, I need you to help me train. And Bakugo's like, why the fuck would I help you train? And he's like, because of your quirk. And Bakugo's like, what the fuck? Why would my quirk help you? You don't even have a quirk. And Deku's right, you're right, I don't have a quirk, but I'm the reincarnation of the Avatar. And Bakugo's like, what the fuck are you on about, you shitty nerd? And Deku starts to explain he's the reincarnation of the Avatar. He's lived multiple past lives, and his job is to bring balance to the world by bending the 4 elements. And he's now working on firebending, and inside firebending, there's something called combustion bending, which is very similar to Bakugo's quirk, so I need your assistance. And Kachan's like, what the fuck? I call bullshit. You're just pulling shit out of your ass, you shitty nerd. As Deku's like, fine, if you don't believe me, then give me a minute. As he puts his hand on his shoulder and summons Ain and Korra and Kyoshi as well as Roku, who all look at Bakugo. Bakugo's like, what the fuck are you guys? And they're all like, oh, you're Bakugo, Korra says as she gets like a kind of upset look on his face. And Ain's like, now, Korra, you gotta remember, we don't know what Bakugo thinks every time he hurts Izuku, so we really can't deduce if he's a bad person or not. And Roku agrees. And then Kyoshi, who kind of sees herself as a motherly figure or a big sister figure to Bakugo, to Midoriya, looks at Bakugo with kind of like a disgusted look on her face, and then turns away. He's like, who the fuck are you? And then they all introduce themselves in order. Kyoshi introduces herself first, and she's like, hello, I'm Kyoshi. I am the previous earthbending avatar before Izuku. Fuck you. As she gets a very angry look on her face, and Bakugo's just like, what? And then Roku introduces himself and says, I apologize for Kyoshi's actions. Hello, I am Roku, the firebending avatar. The latest one. And then Ain's like, I also apologize myself for Kyoshi's actions, but we have seen you bully and also harass and explode and damage Izuku a lot. So please do remember that we do not hold hatred against you. At least I know I personally don't. But some of us are much more grudge holding as he looks towards Korra than others. I apologize for our actions that we may display in the future. And Korra's like, I'm Korra, and fuck you for beating up Izuku. And Bakugo looks around, he's like, so, what the nerd said is true. He is the Avatar, and y'all are his past lives. As he's like kind of brushing his tempo, because Bakugo ain't stupid. Bakugo's pretty smart, and now he's understanding that Deku might hold a little bit more truth than lies. And Kyoshi's like, yes, we are. Now, I do request that you help Midoriya learn his bending, combustion bending. And Roku says, yes, I'm the one who sent him towards you. As his firebending teacher, I do request you help him learn combustion. And Ain and Korra really don't say much at this point. They haven't had too much one-on-one training with Deku. Even though Ain's next and then Korra's last for training with Deku. And Bakugo finally gives in. He's like, fine! Fuck it! Why not? If the nerd can beat me in the battle, then I'll train with him. And teach him how I work my quirk. And hopefully that helps him learn whatever the fuck you all are talking about. Bakugo yells at a very loud pitch. And then Deku, with a smiling face, says, "Thank you, Ka-chan." "Whatever, you shitty nerd. Let's go to the forest." And then Deku says, "Can we not go to the forest?" And Bakugo's like, "Why the fuck would we not go to the forest?" And Deku explains, "Well, first off, one of my abilities is fire related, and the forest plus fire doesn't equal up very well." And then Bakugo's like, "Okay, then where the fuck you want us to go then?" "Let's go to the Dekuba Beach. I cleared it like 3 months ago using metal bending." And Bakugo thinks, "Metal bending? What the fuck is that? How many different things can this nerd bend?" They both head down to the beach. And they start getting ready. And Deku's like, "This remembers me of an acne kai." And Bakugo's like, "What the fuck is that?" And he's like, "A traditional fight between firebenders." And then Bakugo's like, "I'm not a fucking firebender. Don't loop me in with your shit." And then Deku's like, "Yes, you are correct, but you do basically use one of the 3 different types of firebending techniques." "Whatever, let's fight." And Deku's like, "Okay." Deku starts off with earthbending by using the sand to block Bakugo's attack and create a sandball around himself. And Bakugo's like, "What the fuck is this? I thought you said you could bend fire." "Yeah, I can also bend earth," Deku replies. And Bakugo's like, "What the fuck? You can bend earth too?" "Yeah, I can basically bend whatever I need to bend." "That makes no fucking sense!" "Nothing makes sense," Deku says while smirking. As well as then he tries to attack Bakugo with a sand spike. Bakugo dodges with his explosion, sending him flying. He's not as quick to know about flying explosions, but he can push himself around with the explosions, which will help him make flying explosions in a little bit here. Deku then drops the sand ball and runs towards Bakugo and tries to punch Bakugo. Doing little damage to Bakugo, Bakugo replies by trying to kick Midoriya. Midoriya, knowing multiple different forms of martial arts, quickly removes the kick by blocking it and then using the force of the kick to spin him around and hit Bakugo with a kick in the side. He's like, "What the fuck?" Bending is half martial arts and half spirituality. You really don't think I wouldn't learn martial arts to increase my bending? And Bakugo was like, "Fuck. Close range combat against this nerd's basically impossible if he knows multiple different martial arts. I might as well just run at him and fucking explode." Bakugo starts running towards Deku, but Deku uses sand bending to trip Bakugo, causing Bakugo to almost fall. But then, using his explosions, he flips and lands back on his feet. He's like, "I can't even touch the ground. He can manipulate the ground underneath me. I might as well just fucking fly." As he points his hands down and explodes, sending himself flying in the air. He's like, "Yeah, this is better." As he propels himself with explosions towards Deku. He quickly tries to explode Deku, but Deku, creating the sand wall, protects himself from it. And then another explosion which hits Deku in the back, causing Deku to fall forward. But then Bakugo notices at the spot where he hit him, it starts to crack and then fall away, revealing that he has skin underneath his skin. "What the fuck was that?" And Deku's like, "I might as well explain now. That's called sand armor, a technique I created. It makes a layer of sand between me and my skin, making it very easy to guard against attacks." "That's bullshit!" "Yeah, talk about it." As Bakugo then lands on the ground, Deku quickly opens up the ground underneath him and collapses him inside. Afterwards, Bakugo's trying to escape by exploding, but the explosions keep rupturing around inside the little hole he's in. causing it to be very hard for him to even escape. Then Bakugo finally escapes outside of the hole. Deku's like, "You're not even as good as Mirio." As he kicks Bakugo in the face, sending him flying after getting out the hole. He's like, "Who the fuck is that?" And Deku says Mirio is a third-year UA student. He is a very advanced and knows how to use his quirk very well. He also knows some professionals that I cannot tell you about. I met one of them while he was here. And just then, a man in blonde hair and blue eyes starts to walk on the beach with another man. As Bakugo launches an explosion at Deku, Deku uses sand bending to quickly block it, and then traps Bakugo and hardens the sand around Bakugo, and then using fire bending, heats up the sand to such an absurd degree that it turns to glass, and then he instantaneously cools it off, trapping Bakugo inside a glass thing of sand, a glass pile, what would you call it? A glass cone, leaving him trapped in there. And then, out of nowhere, the old man says, "Midoriya, what are you doing to this kid?" As Deku looks behind and sees Toshinori, also known as All Might, and Mirio standing there. He's like, "Oh, Toshinori. Oh, this is my friend Bakugo. Me and him were having a spar. See if he will teach me or help assist me in learning combustion bending." And then Toshinori's like, "That's a portion of firebending, correct?" "Yes." He's like, "Oh, so you're learning firebending now?" "Yes, I've already learned everything except for combustion." And he said I had to beat him. Just then, Bakugo busts out and tries to hit Deku an explosion in the back, but Deku, being all done playing around, basically forces Bakugo onto the ground and keeps him locked there. He's like, "Let me out of here, you shitty nerd." "Hey, stop. We got people. We have to stop the Acne Kai." "Oh, we're not even doing Acne Kai in the first fucking place." "Sorry, Toshinori and Mirio. So what brings y'all here?" "Well, Mirio says he was itching to fight you again. We haven't really seen each other in about a month or two. So he was like, I want to fight Midoriya again. I've gotten so much better at handling you-know-what, as well as my quirk. I bet you I can beat him now." And Deku's like, "So you want to fight again, Mirio?" "Yeah." As Deku releases Bakugo from his sand prison, letting Bakugo stand back up, he's like, "Fine, I'll assist you after you're done with your shitty fight, nerd." "Thank you, Bakugo." "Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna fucking blow my brains out after this." "Thank you, Bakugo." Bakugo just storms off and sits down. Deku made a chair for Bakugo to sit down. He's like, "You couldn't make the chair any softer?" And Deku's like, "It's literally made out of sand. You want it to be softer? Don't ask me to make you a fucking chair out of sand then." "Whatever." "Sorry about that. You ready to go, Mirio?" "Yep." "I'm not gonna let you beat me this time, Midoriya." "Well, the streak's 1-1. You could easily beat me again." "Yeah, fair." "So, you've mastered all fire, right?" "Yeah, but I could probably only use two techniques using firebending against you." "You didn't even use firebending against Bakugo." Well, Bakugo kind of didn't need firebending to be used against him, especially with firebending's more of an elimination group of techniques rather than a subdoge group of techniques. And Mirio caught Deku's drift, and he's like, I hear you, Midoriya. I understand." And then Toshinori stands back, getting ready to buff up, but then he remembers that Bakugo's right there, so he can't buff up and stop the fight if it gets too bad. And Deku quickly pauses and then runs over to All Might saying, "Hey, I'm gonna create a sand thing over you. And then it's gonna look exactly like you. And then I'm gonna create a hole underneath the ground so you can quickly escape if need be. Okay? Just in case of this fight gets out of hand between me and Mirio. Okay? Oh, thank you, good Midoriya. No problem. As he gives Toshinori sand armor. And Bakugo sees it and he's like, you can use that on other people too? Yeah, I'm putting it on him for safety reasons. Huh. Even though we know it's just so that he can quickly slip away while Toshinori still stands there. So All Might can end up helping break up the fight between the two if it's needed. Which it probably is going to be needed. So the fight starts. Deku leads off with a small thunder attack, which greatly reduces Mirio's speed and capabilities, but then Mirio goes underneath the ground. Coming up, hits Deku right underneath his chin, sending Deku flying backwards where Deku created a pillar of sand, and then using the pillar of sand, sends out small sand tentacles to attack everything. He's like, fucking hell. This shitty nerd's having a decent enough time against him. He's not even using all of his techniques yet. All Might looks over at Bakugo and he's like, all of his techniques? This is the exact same stuff Midoriya was using last time. Even though, yes, I saw him use firebending to create glass. And we already told him no lava bending against an actual opponent in case if it's necessary, and that's the only time he can use it. And Deku's like, okay, time to go full out. And Bakugo hears this, he's like, finally. And All Might's kind of confused, he's like, full out? We haven't even seen him in 2 months. And he said he's mastered all of the fire element? If going full out means using earth and fire, you better not use lava! It's not gonna be lava, Toshinori, before you ask. And Bakugo's kind of surprised. He's like, lava? You can bend lava? Yeah, I can also create it if need be. And then Deku sends fire. He opens up small holes in his sand pillar he's standing on and sends fire throughout all of them, creating fire ending up on all areas. And then he quickly spins it around, creating a fire vortex around the area. As well as that, then he sends lightning directly down into the pillar to strike the entire bottom segment to disperse the electricity, mainly just to give Mirio a slight shock, causing him to take a deep breath in. After doing that, Mirio got sent back up to the top, which then Deku quickly rushes over to Mirio, and then, using a technique he created called the lightning punch, surrounds lightning around his hand and punches Mirio in the gut, electrocuting his entire body. Mirio then falls to the floor, unconscious, but still alive and breathing, as Midoriya instantaneously wins the fight. All Might's just shocked after seeing this. He had buffed up already and left the small cocoon Midoriya had made for him, which was still standing there, and he finds it weird that he can see himself standing there while he's in his buff Might form. And jumps down. He's like, what are you kids doing? Because he has to put on an act for Bakugo. And Bakugo's like, All Might? And Deku's like, All Might? Nothing. Didn't I already told you not to use your quirk that strong, boy? Yes, All Might. I apologize. And Bakugo's like, hey, All Might, can I get your autograph? Because Bakugo's an All Might fanboy just as much as Deku is. He's like, yes. As he gets Bakugo the autograph. And then Midoriya whispers saying, he's just unconscious. He's completely fine. I only packed 5% of the power into that punch as I could. And All Might takes a deep breath out and he's like, thank Christ. Well, I gotta take this kid over to Recovery Girl to make sure he's okay. Please do not use that attack under normal circumstances. Especially the fire tornado one that got my attention. Yes, sir. As they both leave away. Bakugo and Deku both look at each other, and Bakugo's kind of like hyped as hell, because All Might was just here. All Might actually talked to him, and also signed him and gave him an autograph? When the fuck did he do that? And then Deku's like, so can we start training now? And Bakugo's like, yeah. Because Bakugo's in a pretty pleasant mood, he agrees with Deku on the spot. He then teaches Deku the basis of his quirk, explaining that It's just that I heat up my hands and create nitroglycerin sweat, which lets me make explosions. Deku tries to form an explosion in his hand. He doesn't have success at doing it, so he calmly tries to realign, or actually do the opposite, because he thinks if lightning is using my energy in a stable fashion, making it stable, what happens if we make my energy unstable, doing the exact opposite? Fire is in between of being stable and unstable. It's like semi-stable. Lightning is completely stable. What's unstable? Explosions are unstable. That's literally the cause of it. So why don't we try that? After Deku then disaligns his soul energy, he starts to create a small explosion in the palm of his hand. He's like, I did it. I busted out how to make a concussion bending. I've done it. I've done it. Yes. And Deku's excited for this, especially with about 3 weeks until the UA's entrance exam happens. Deku then creates another explosion, and another one, and another one, slowly getting bigger and bigger. And Bakugo could see this, and he's impressed. Deku had just learned concussion bending, just like that. And then Deku and Bakugo both practiced it for the next couple of weeks, for the next 3 weeks until the UA entrance exam, where Bakugo and Deku both split off. Mirio had came back 2 times, but Deku had beaten Mirio both of those times after. Even though Mirio did take out his full power at the start of the third and fourth match between them, but the score is still 1-3, with Deku being in the lead. And that's where we're gonna leave it off, guys. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. And tomorrow I will be coming out with part 5, I think it is. I think it's part 5 for what if Deku had solo leveling. Yeah, so if you're excited for that, make sure you look out for it. And until next time, goodbye.